And we're on the air. Hello, friends. Welcome to another Codementor office hours for today. My name is Mark. If this is your first time joining us for a session, basically what we do is we get together online and meet with a technical expert in an area that we're really trying to do a deep dive on and can help our community out. So these are all live recorded to the Codementor YouTube channel. There you can always come back to them. So if you are trying to take expeditious notes, you can put your pencils down and just enjoy the video. And throughout the session, if you have any questions, if you're in the live room with us, which looks like we have a good amount of people, you can use the group chat on the right. If you're watching this from the Google Plus live broadcast, I see some people in there as well. There's a little blue Q&A app. It can be hard to find, but if you can find that, then you can send questions in via that, and we'll hit as many as we can towards the end. But without further ado, I'd like to introduce today's guest. Stepan is a JavaScript expert who works at StudyTube. He has a master's degree in computer and information systems and system security and information assurance. And he's joining us today to talk us through identifying and avoiding pitfalls within Angular and to make Angular work the way it should. So please welcome Stepan.
Hello, everyone. Well, I came to such kind of topic, first of all, because there are a lot of discussions around Angular, around Angular performance, and there are also a lot of developers that are saying that Angular is bad because of performance. You shouldn't use Angular because of performance. But when I asked them what exactly bad, there are no real answers. So I decided to clarify a little bit this question and came up with such kind of topic. So let me share my screen. Yeah, here you are. So working in StudyTube. It's kind of startup, and we are building quite big online learning platform, and it's completely Angular. So I can share some experience about it. And also, I would like to say my source of inspiration was a very good book, Build Your Own Angular by Tiro, and also a great article about performance by Gleb Bakhmutov. Both of them you can find also as well on Codementor. And as far as I remember, they both also made office hours presentation. So, and of course, source code of AngularJS, and it's like one source of truth. If you ask me to do all my presentation like in very short, I'll probably do it in only 3 slides. Does Angular have performance issue? No. And that's probably all. Because AngularJS actually doesn't have performance issues. But you can make it slow. You can make it slow by your own implementation. And what part of this framework could be a problem? What part could be a problem for you in your implementation? What could be wrong? And the general answer is watchers. Watchers are like watchers is very tricky concept that you could abuse in many ways, and it's quite important to know how to use them correctly. So let's assume the watchers are our main problem. Also, we have filters. Filters could also slow down your application. But why filters? Because filters are also based on watchers. What else could be the problem? You know that Angular is famous by two-way data binding. But two-way data binding, what does it mean? It means double watchers, because you need to synchronize data both directions, from your HTML and from your data model. So in this case, you have also interesting directive like ngRepeat that could be handy from one side, but in case if you want to create a table with a huge amount of rows, it will be too many watchers. Too many watchers, because if there will be a lot of rows, a lot of cells, and for example, each cell is also like has two-way data binding, and it will definitely slow down your system. And digest method and digest cycle itself, because of course it runs all the watchers in scope of your scope. So what are watchers are actually? We probably, if you work with Angular, you already know that you could create watcher by watch method, like just put some item or expression or function that you would like to watch, and also put some callback that you want to run when something is changed. Also, maybe you know that Angular has as well like method like watch collection, and also pretty nice one from Angular 1.3 watch group that you could also use. Let's speak a little bit about general Angular concepts and where could we find our watchers. All Angular instances, or almost all, are services that are connected by dependency injection principle. For example, I put here only the main, like compile first, of course, the main compile service. All the directives are also services, and scope service. ngController is just an example of directive that is service as well. So we are going to scope scope service to look into details. Scope service could create scope instance. As you probably know, each controller, if you're speaking about ngController, has own scope instance. Directive, if it has own scope, it also has it. So, and inside each scope instance, we have watchers. So we could call our watch method that we spoke about in this slide, on the exec scope. And it will create an instance, like an object, watcher object, and will save it in watchers collection inside the scope. And speaking about digest method, it will each time during digest cycle, it will go through all the watchers and analyze them and execute. So basically, watcher is just an object. It's just an object that has some kind of information about expression that you would like to watch. And digest cycle. So I just said about digest method that runs digest cycle. And for each watcher, you should always when you add one more watcher, you should keep in mind that for each watcher, digest cycle will do these steps. First step is like get observed expression value. Sometimes it's not just a variable, sometimes it's a function that also should be executed to get the value, or it's kind of expression that should be also parsed. So it's not, in some cases it's not just a value. Second step is compare expression, this expression, and store it, that already stored one. And in case if they are not equal, digest will execute callback that is stored also with this watcher object. And we shouldn't forget about fourth step. It also should update like stored value for new one. It's important, and we will speak about it later. And yeah, so the digest cycle could be a problem, as you said, because it runs a lot of watchers. And you should keep in mind as well that it is executed quite often. For example, well, each ng click. Let's go into source code. You can also check it. And here we have all, as well as click, also double click, mouse up, mouse down, and all these events. And in the end, we have scope apply. Scope applied means that it will run digest cycle. Digest cycle will be executed also by ng change directive ng model. Also, it's HTTP service that for each call to update, like when you get the response from server and you update some scope variables, it's quite clear that you would like to have I'll just show it's our HTTP service, and you can find also here, like at the end, our apply. And of course, timeout as well. Timeout service will run digest cycle and go through all the watchers. I put all the links here to, if you're interested in source code So as we looked, scope apply, and scope digest, like methods directly could run digest cycle. The answer is pretty clear for question what to do in such situation. To have less watchers, to prevent going through all the watchers, but another question: how could we have less watchers? And here I could provide some hints for you. The first is using ngIf directive comparing to ngShow. Sometimes when you don't need to keep the element on page, it's better to use ngIf. And of course, you will, in case of ngIf, if it's not active, you will be not watching like all the elements inside this container. Because for ngShow directive, you still keep watching. Another hint would be to use nice directive instead of ngRepeat. You can use AngularJS repeat, and you also could check this example. The idea is pretty simple of this directive. When you have lots of rows, you just manipulate and like watch the rows that are in this area, like in your view area, but not all. One more hint would be to use exec directive for events and for example, for change, to use ngChange if you want to synchronize data only one way. I mean, if you have a field and if you want to synchronize data from the field to your model, but not back direction, you should definitely use ngChange instead of doing ngModel on this field after doing like scope watch and after this callback. One more interesting thing that appeared in Angular.3 is ngModel options. In like a lot of cases, you don't need to synchronize the data immediately. And with ngModel options, you could control it. I have an example here to show you. Let's assume that you have search form on your site, and you need like kind of autocomplete or so to send request to the server each time when you update your model. And is font size okay for you?
Yeah, looks okay to me.
Oh, I already see a question about to tell about more about Angular versus repeat. So, but the concept of Angular versus repeat is like pretty clear. Instead of watching all the rows, we watch only a row that like probably there is quite simple explanation about it. And you also could try to put here, I just don't want to froze my browser, but you could try to put really big number here of rows and compare it to tables. Because now the tables are not so big, and but we already see the difference. Okay, back to ng model options. So each time when the model is updated, we need to send request to the server. And of course, it's not good to send request each time for each symbol, like with just standard binding. We like put in symbols, and I have here like dots. It means each dot it's request to the server. And you see it's quite a lot. But you could put ng options and you have kind of delay. When you start typing, no request to the server, no synchronization. But after stop, you stop typing, after some delay, this is the result. It's really good to use in such cases when you have form and when you need to send immediately like request to the server, and not to create own solutions to do this, but just use native solutions from Angular 1.3. And also an option to have it like when you switch to another field, it will be updated, the model. And again, only one request. Of course, it's up to you if you need to send requests for each symbol, like, okay. But if you don't, it's better to use engine model options. Also, quite good concept that appeared in Angular 1.3 is one-time binding. Because you don't need two-way binding each time. For example, you would like to output your name, but you don't want, it's not a form, it's not input field. You just want to output your name in your profile. And it will be not changed from HTML. So in this case, it's better to use such kind of syntaxes. And output the data in such way. And you could compare here, like one-time binding when you don't have watchers, and normal binding. Some hints how to use watch method. First, if you use watch method a lot, you should prevent recursive calls. It's quite important because sometimes one watcher could like run another, and it's not very clear what is the problem, and it's difficult to analyze. So it's better when you create architecture of your application, it's better to like prevent such situation from the beginning. Also, it's good to group watchers. Group watchers, like when you have several properties of scope and you want to run the same callback, you can use watch collection, and you can use watch group as well. And yeah, it would be better than create call watch method each time. Also, I found out that not all the developers that are using watch know about possibility to unwatch. That's why I created an example that I'll show you. So the syntax is so that watch method returns unwatch function, and when you run this function, you unwatch this watcher. And it's good to use for cases when you watch some element, and after you realize that you don't need to watch it anymore, and just it's still on the page, it's still like some element, but you don't need to watch it anymore. So you some list, and for example, you finish the form, you don't need to watch it, and haven't disabled the list to show you that we're still adding elements, but the counter is the same. So if you have such situation when you could just unwatch unnecessary watchers, it's also good. And also, when you use watch, you need to know all the possibilities of this method, and you need to play with different options to get the best result. For example, what I have here, I have array of big objects and function to generate these big objects, and we will generate array of big objects and watch. We have watch here, and it's important that we have watch with true, like third parameter is true. It means that we will do deep watch, and we actually need from this watcher is only count. It's quite stupid example, but it's not about that we should use watch to get the count. It's just an example how not to use the watchers. So we will generate some amount of elements, these big objects, and we watch them. And we'll do some profiling. So probably 1,000 would be enough. And what do we see in this profile? Of course, here we run scope apply, scope digest, but quite interesting thing that I would like to show you, that copy functionality will take more than comparing. So we have quite big objects, and this deep comparison operation will take less than copying. And we copy an object each time. We copy this object, the array of this object each time. And the operation of copy is much heavier. You should also keep this in mind. I would like to return back to slides with like steps of digest cycle. Yeah. So this one, update old value property. If you watch big object, it will and watch with like third param true. It will not only do deep comparison of old value and new value. In case if it is changed, it will have to do deep copy as well. And as you just saw, it's quite heavy operation. Copying. So try to prevent doing deep watch by different options. Try to prevent this. For example, I made like the same functionality. Instead of doing deep watch, sorry, not instead of doing deep watch, but instead of the same deep watch, of course, but instead of watching big object, I put here function, and function will return only like one value, not this big object, not an array of big objects, but only this value. And we could do like profiling as well. You probably already see that it's much faster, going much faster. And 100 as well. And now if we look at like operations and any part, you don't have this like heavy copy operation. Like it was here. I hope this example is clear because it's quite important concept about playing with different options of using watch method. So if you have any questions about it, do not hesitate to ask. Let's go next. So scope apply. Probably you also know that scope apply, I put the code like source code here. And it's basically, if we simplify the code, if we remove all the try catch exceptions and some checks, it will be only this. So it means scope apply comparing to digest. It's only evaluation of some expression and also digest, but digest on root scope. And if you need to execute digest cycle only on your scope, not on root scope, it's better to use directly digest. So $scope.digest instead of doing scope apply. Also, you should keep it in mind that actually doing scope digest is not so good. You should use it as less as possible, but scope apply only in some very specific cases. And also, I read some articles about possibilities to improve the digest cycle by putting some paths into web workers, but they are only prototypes, and all that I saw, they break the main concept of dirty checking, and they break this magic, and you will have setters and getters instead of just that you have currently in scope. And so for me, they are not good enough to really take into account such possibility. Another thing that you could put some your heavy functions, heavy client-side logic inside web workers, wrap them like communication wrap into factories, into Angular factories or services, and it's good. But trying to put part of the framework inside web worker, I don't know, that's could be a good idea. And of course, the question, what about Angular? What about second version of Angular? I should say that it's so different from first version that it's even difficult to compare, and as well difficult to compare performance. Like I could compare performance, for example, Angular 1.2 to 1.3, and 1.3, especially with all these features like one-time binding and ng model options, is much better. and probably 1.4 they made some fixes, and 1.4 is better than 1.3. But like 2.0, it's a totally different framework, and they don't use two-way bind at all. So of course, the performance is much better than first one. That's all about 2.0. And I think that's it. I probably showed all the examples. I think yes.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Do you want to start with addressing? I mean, I know you kind of passed by them. The three questions that are in the group chat now. Do you feel like those are covered well? Stepan?
Sorry, could you repeat, please?
Oh, the questions that are in the group chat. Were you able to see those?
Oh, let me check. Group chat, yeah, could you? And repeat. Well, as I said about repeat, like and Angular versus repeat. Another. Oh, you. No. It's totally. The question is about is it extending a current repeat or it's another directive? Yes, it's another directive. It's another directive, but the syntax is pretty much the same. So you can easily switch from repeat to Angular versus repeat. So this one is, and does it have start and like repeat start? Does one-time binding make sense for something like yeah, sure. Why not? Why not? About time binding, and you can like bind a property. Yeah. It's. I think it would be interesting for you to look inside source code and check compare both binding. It's better to look at ngbind directive and the implementation are different, and you will have like you will not have these watchers that you don't need.
Cool. Well, yeah, guys, please feel free to send in some more questions. If you're watching from the Google Plus page, you can use the Q&A app. Oh, looks like another one just came in. Anything on Angular's new version? Yeah. What do you know about the new version of Angular?
Well, it was it was one of my slides, and new version of Angular. It's, as I said, totally different, and they removed all the concepts that were slow, like in previous version could be slow, and yeah, of course, it's much better in terms of performance. And well, each new version, and I would say even 1.3, if you are using like all new features of 1.3 that are fixing these problems with lots of watchers, is already very good. So.
Gotcha. Well, I have a couple questions that were emailed in, but people feel free to keep throwing ones in. These are good. So, actually, this is one that we get almost every session that's about JavaScript. But, for you, a lot of these office hour sessions we cover, React and Ember and all sorts of JavaScript options. For you, what are the variables in a project that you look for that would make you decide to use Angular as opposed to one of the other options?
for example, for our current project, it was decision between Angular and Ember, and we already had one application based on AngularJS, and it was quite difficult to switch because we already started with AngularJS, but we realized that Angular gives you more flexibility, and it's quite important for exactly for startups when your requirements are changing so fast, so you need to be flexible. And comparing to AngularJS, it like dictate you very strict rules, and if you don't know all the requirements from the beginning, it will be quite difficult to change it after like 1 month or two, and you like realize that you went wrong direction. That's the idea. And comparing to React, for example, yeah, it's a kind of new trend, and but it's only library. It's not a complete framework. I like concept of virtual DOM very much, but that's all that I like in React.
Mm-hmm.
I think the like framework that also is promoted for React, like Flux, but I didn't get the idea of global like events. Of course, it's good that you can send any event to anywhere and like catch it on another place in your system, but don't know that it would be good for big projects. You definitely will have big list of these events, and they just solve one problem of like modular dependency and created another one with these global events. So that's my thoughts about React and Flux, and so I still like Angular and modular system of Angular.
Cool. What have been the most valuable resources to learn Angular for you?
I would say this book. I already like put it. Yeah. Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Build Your Role in Angular. It's very good book. It's good book for beginners and for professionals, because with this book you like dive into all the details. Yeah. Probably you could start with like official documentation and this address book, or what Angular provides, quick application to understand just some very general concepts, and after you could take this book, and really recommend it.
Gotcha. Awesome. Well, I don't want to take too much more of your time. This has been really awesome, and I always recommend everyone to go back and review the recording of these, the really in-depth sessions that we have, and this was definitely one of them. This is great. So thank you so much for your time. And is it okay if people send you some more questions if they have any?
Yeah, sure.
Great.
Yes. Sorry.
I'm sorry?
Yeah, sorry. Can I ask one more question?
Oh, sure. Go ahead.
Thanks. It's about the team. You told that you have two teams, one with Angular and another Ember. It's two projects. How do you think you hire one more new developer? It's easy to start on Ember project on Angular. Which of these framework is more user-friendly for jQuery users?
it's definitely much more easy to start with Angular. With Angular, you could create your first prototype application like in 2 or 3 days. After doing official manual, with Ember, it's quite difficult to do Hello World application. It will take you a week just to include all the dependencies. And another thing that in Angular, like, it's really low level to start, but after, when you build big applications with Angular, it's very high level to understand all the concepts after, like understand all the details of scope inheritance, differences between different services, how to use, how to bind, but yeah, like, I think for quick prototyping, Angular is the best framework for now.
Awesome. Thanks for the question. Yeah, if there's nothing else for now, I think we'll wrap up, and I'll email everyone who's RSVP'd with a link to the playback video and a link to Stepan's work, and please continue to check out more Codementor office hours, and as always, we're at your disposal if we can help you out with any Angular challenges you guys have. So thanks so much for attending.
Thank you.
All right, take care.